For TV.
Welcome back to Doctor Who Too Hot for TV. We are the podcast that looks at all things Doctor Who Extended Universe. Today, I'm joined by someone I've podcasted with many times over on the Strangers in Space feed, but for some reason, I've never invited him here, which is shame on me. But please welcome to the podcast, everybody. It's Jon Arnold. Jon, how are you?
I'm really good. Thank you for letting me lose my virginity on this episode.
It's my pleasure. I feel like we've been talking about doing an episode for about a year, and then just for one reason or another, we sort of said, oh, we'll do this, we'll do that, and then we've never quite fitted it in. And a few months ago, I was like, we need to do this.
Yeah, well, that's what a good podcast does, don't they? It's just like they force you to endure the dregs of Doctor Who just for the entertainment of others.
I don't know what you mean. I'm going to be very complimentary about everything on this episode, so
what,
it's a
fight.
fight.
Want to work for Big Finish in future?
maybe. But before we start, I need to ask how you became a Doctor Who fan.
How did I become a Doctor Who fan? By osmosis, basically, because I've been watching it since before I can remember. My mum says, I was watching it from before I can actually put any memories together. So mid Tom Baker era. But the first thing I can remember is kind of Tom Baker farting around Paris in City of Death. Literally the bit where he goes up to the door with the skull knockers. And that's the only bit of that story I can remember. So, whatever it was, 5 when it was on, all the wit, all the glorious Douglas Adams lines, Julian Glover's performance, Catherine Shell being marvellous. That all goes over your head. And you're just like, yeah, Tom running around for fun. And then I pretty much got hooked on Legopolis, which is weird because that's not generally how I like my Doctor Who, because it's grim, it's all about maths, but it is beautifully directed, and it had that real kind of atmosphere. As a kid, it's really impressive. Tom Baker's going to leave because it was on the news, and you're like, oh, wow. And it's that whole story, that way it just plays into Tom leaving, that just really kind of hooked me. And also, I suspect because my mum really wanted to see Peter Davison, because she had a thing for Peter Davison at that point.
All mums at that point had a thing for Peter Davison, I think.
Oh, totally. And then I think the real key is the 5 Faces of Doctor Who season, because at that age I've just really got into Doctor Who. I really want to see more of it, and there's this little primer of the show's history coming on, and when they say who's your favourite Doctor, I had them all there. I knew all the Doctors right from the start. It's nothing like I jumped in and it was just this one guy forever. Yeah. It's pretty much the only point in the first 25, 26 years you can do that.
Yeah.
So it's really, I think the only other guy I know who jumped in at the same point was Rob Shearman.
Right.
So, it's the weirdos jump in at that point, I think.
And did you ride it out all the way to the end, or did you dip out at any point?
I was on the verge of dipping out in kind of 87, 88, because, 13, 14, you're looking around, there's girls, there's music, there was football for me as well.
And then there's Delta and the Bannermen.
Yeah. I loved Delta and the Bannermen then, but it's not hooking your 13-year-olds. Never going to do that. But then we got a video recorder in 1988. And the first thing I taped off the telly was Remembrance of the Daleks, obviously. And that first episode, it's just like, fucking hell, this show is brilliant again, because it will grab you. And, by the time you got that heads-up display that's, ripped from Aliens, Predator, whatever, I'm all in, and I never left. But equally, going back to that Five Faces, I just got hooked on the Target range because that's how you could, I was hooked on Joe's Past. I just went right through. I was always a big reader as a kid. That was what I loved. I could just read these books, and it's often said in your imagination, even Terence's pamphlets like Destiny of Daleks, they're bloody marvelous in your head. You don't have to cope with a BBC budget. Fabulous. So it's always had that head sail. It's always been the ideas there. Loved it.
Excellent. And then what was your relationship and is your relationship like with the extended universe of Doctor Who, New Adventures, Big Finishes, BBVs, Real Times, comics, all those things?
Well, I look at my credit card bill and I just go, if I had never bought any Doctor Who stuff during those wilderness years onwards, I'd be fucking rich. I wouldn't have a credit card. I'd have thousands of pounds in the bank. I'd have been retired by now. I was all in that during those the wilderness years. Absolutely New Adventures fan all the way through. Soup to nuts, brilliant. Loved it. It's that ongoing story of Doctor Who. I'd always wanted, a series of Doctor Who novels, and even Time Worm Genesis. I was holding a Doctor Who novel in my hands. I read that twice in a couple of days. I couldn't read that now. I was a teenager, I didn't know any better. Come on. And then you get Revelation, which just blew your mind. It's what Doctor Who could be as a book series. It's that, and you get these kind of books. Revelation, obviously, I'm going to say Paul again. In Human Nature, the Also People, Larry Monster, Interference, Alien Bodies. You couldn't write those books at any other time. I've read a ton of time books in my time, and there's so few, if any, stretch series like this. They want to question what Doctor Who is. They want to inject modern popular culture. The fans get in charge of the series, and it's never taken away. And I also knew plenty of people who were working for BBV at the time, so I was, dragooned into buying plenty of those at the conventions.
Right.
Which naturally leads you into a Big Finish addiction, which I had to kick. Otherwise, I would be poor, destitute, and wouldn't have a room over my head in the mid-noughties. But yeah, I have been all in on those. And God, yes, I wrote fan fiction short stories, for Fanthologies at the time. I got loads of the Fanthologies. Yeah, you can probably see behind me all the rewards, all the books, everything. So yeah, I've been all in on pretty much everything for far, far too long now.
Excellent. Well, you're in good company and in the right place in terms of podcasts.
Absolutely.
So, with the pantheon of Doctor Who spin-offery out there and all that you've consumed, what is the first item we've decided to cover today?
Well, I thought, what can we cover? Because I've got, all these glorious wilderness years, everything that stretches what Doctor Who could possibly be. And I thought, now let's bollocks to all that. Let's go for the book, that's popped up every time pretty much on Joe Ford's worst Doctor Who books list. Let's go for The Dalek Generation by Nick Briggs.
Excellent. Well, The Dalek Generation, as you say, was published by BBC Books. It was written by Nicholas Briggs, and it was released on the 8th of April 2013. News at the time, David Tennant and Billie Piper were returning to Doctor Who for the 50th anniversary. How exciting. The Ice Warriors was getting animated, and Raymond Cusick had just passed away. So we're in full-on 50th mode. The speculation of who was going to be in it. Were they going to get Paul McGann back? Was Tom Baker going to appear? Were we going to see Peter Capaldi early? All those conversations were being had.
And was Stephen Moffat going to have a nervous breakdown at everything that was going on with the production at the time?
Quite right. Then other releases at the time, we had Babelsphere was released by Audio Go and Big Finish, a talking book featuring the Fourth Doctor and the Second Romana. Plague of the Cybermen and The Shroud of Sorrow were also released by BBC Books in conjunction with this one. From Big Finish, we had Eldrad Must Die, featuring the Fifth Doctor, Tegan, Nissanet and Turlo. The Library of Alexandria, a companion chronicle featuring the First Doctor, Ian, Barbara, Susan. Filthy Lucre, which is a Bernice book, or Lucra, I don't know. New Frontiers, a Benny box set. Then on television, we had The Rings of Akaten, Cold War, Hyde, and Journey to the Centre of the TARDIS, while the comic strip was Hunters of the Burning Stone. So, in terms of Doctor Who on television, I feel like this book might be in quite good company, but, you know.
There's a bit of nostalgia in there, isn't there, with the Hunters of Burning Stone?
Yeah, I mean, that was the beginning of their 50th celebration, wasn't it, that comic strip?
Yeah. The Tribe coming back, and who better to do that than Johnny Morris, obviously.
Exactly.
I just enjoyed that for the pure nostalgia thrill, I've got to be honest.
Yeah, and I remember all those, well, certainly the Eldrad Must Die and the Library of Alexandria being quite decent big finishes. Not like mind-blowing, but, you know, just like a good bit of solid Doctor Who.
Meat and potatoes, Doctor, or baked beans in front of you with your nans.
Exactly. Exactly.
Too hot for TV.
After receiving a hypercube that takes the Doctor to a mysterious funeral where an old woman recognises the Doctor and the grave is marked with a toy spaceship, the Doctor then receives a distress call, but when he goes to answer it, he is knocked off course by the Dalek time controller, arriving too late to save the two people who sent out the call, Terran and Alist. However, he finds their children hiding, Sable, Genebeth and Ollus, with Ollus having the toy spaceship from the grave. The Doctor returns them to their home planet where the Daleks are considered a force for good. The Doctor is arrested for denouncing the Daleks and is tried by the Dalek litigator, but the Doctor escapes with the children in the TARDIS. The Doctor takes the children to see their family friend, Augusta, who is excavating the Cradle of the Gods, a great monument they have discovered with the inscription, meaning it either has the purpose of creation or destruction. The Daleks arrive, the Doctor, Sable and Ollus manage to escape back to the TARDIS, but Augusta is exterminated and Genebeth is captured. The Doctor, Sable and Ollus use Lillian, a reporter, to sniff out the Resistance. When they reach the Resistance, the Daleks appear to have followed them and kill the Resistance. The Doctor takes over Lillian's broadcast to denounce the Daleks once more and tries to get the people to rise up against the Daleks, but the people just don't believe him. The Daleks then force the Doctor to leave the planet and the children behind. 90 years on, Jill is taking care of an elderly Ollus and tells him Sable is expected to recover from a cold in hospital soon. Jill then finds a white cube and inquires about it, and Ollus begins to remember the Doctor as he goes to sleep. The Doctor lands on the planet Gerthia, where Ollus is, not long after he left the funeral. The old woman he saw returns. Due to the family resemblance, the Doctor mistakes her for Sable, but it's really Genebeth. When the Daleks arrive, they realise that all this has been a plan of the Dalek time controller, with Jezebeth being a Dalek agent. The Daleks intend to turn the sunlight world into billions of Skaros. The Doctor sets the cradle to self-destruct. The time controller moves to kill the Doctor, but Genebeth, able to resist the Daleks' control, attacks it. The other Daleks fight back, but Genebeth destroys them. The crater's destruction also returns the elderly Sable, Genebeth and Ollus to their former years, able to live out their lives without Dalek interference.
Too hot for TV.
So, why did you choose the Dalek Generation?
Because I read it when it came out and I thought, what an absolute pile of unmitigated shite, and I wanted to see if I was right.
Well, a lot of people seem to say this within the glitterati of Doctor Who podcasters, don't they? That this is a bad book. But I wanted to go out a little further afield and see what people had to say. So if we go onto Amazon, this has 4.5 stars out of 5. It's 62% 5-star reviews, 20% 4 stars. If we go on to Goodreads, it's got 3.7 stars out of 5. There's 1,049 reviews, of which, you know, a good 30% are 5-star and another 20% are 4-star. And people say things like this. Mr. Christopher D. Hill says, tense storyline, held me under its spell. That's when I could tear it away from my 15-year-old who is a big Doctor Who fan. 5 out of 5. Deb says 5 out of 5. My son picked this out for a Father's Day gift and it was well received. unable to review the content, as I didn't actually read it.
That explains a lot.
Bernie says, a true whirlwind of a ride, a fantastic story full of unexpected twists and turns. Just when I thought I had it figured out, the author sends you and the Doctor in an entirely new direction. Lola says, all the twists and turns, and of course the crying in the end when your heart is ripped from your body. Well done, Nicholas Briggs. Peter says, I love the story plot and I was overwhelmed by the ending. Beth says, beyond brilliant. 5 stars. I haven't read a 5-star Doctor Who book in a while. It was actually thrilling. I was so surprised. I mean, what does that say about the perhaps more casual Doctor Who fan that picks up a book or two?
It says, clearly I'm wrong. I know nothing. I'm a fanboy and I'm just scum who should be shot and murdered all over the face of the earth somewhere, like the Dalek in Resolution. So take my heart, take it to Russia, bury it deep.
Well, that is actually what the next review said, but I thought it might upset you to read it out. I wonder if we can then perhaps separate why so many hardcore Doctor Who fans dislike this, whereas it doesn't seem to cause that much of a negative response in a more casual fan. And I'm not talking casual viewer, I'm talking casual fan. I think there's an important delineation there.
Absolutely, because a casual viewer would not be buying this book. The casual fan would. I know it's out there at the time of the 50th, so, and it's Doctor Who's all over television at that point. You're getting loads of hype, so it will sell to the more casual viewer or fan. Sorry. The thing is as well, I think it comes off the back of a really strong run of books because you've got Johnny Morris's Touched by an Angel is there. You've got Naomi Alderman's Borrowed Time, which is frankly one of the best Doctor Who books you will read. I've managed to even convert Joe Ford to reading a Moffat era book. That's how good that book is, and he liked it.
Borrowed Time though, only 4 stars as opposed to 4.5 stars on Amazon there.
You can cast pearls before swine.
And it has the same rating as this does on Goodreads.
Oh. Well, I know I bring down the average of this on Goodreads a bit. And I put the average of Borrowed Time up a little. Yeah, and this one, I forgot that I left this one in storage, so I had to buy myself a second copy. So no matter how bad I feel about this, Nicholas Briggs has had my money twice.
Well, I mean, what more can you say? I've recently found out I've got a few duplicates of Doctor Who books. Most of them worth nothing, but I found out I've got 3 copies of Alien Bodies.
Nice.
Yeah, I think that's an earner right there.
Yeah, I've got 2 Dying Days.
Oh wow!
So I think we could become dealers here.
Between us, we can clear your credit card bill if we
absolutely. Just one sale, do it.
Excellent. So yeah, I mean, what is it as a Doctor Who fan that you find so offensive about this book?
I don't know. It's about as a Doctor Who fan because it's got that kind of thing where it'll be quite satisfying for a casual fan, I think, because it's got the Doctor running around and being Matt Smith, and it's not too bad on that score. But there's not much Dalek in there. There's the Daleks are very, very difficult to make work on books. I think maybe Prisoner of the Daleks might be the only one which has really managed it. So it's always kind of hiding that as literature it doesn't work for me or anything else because of the plot, and the plot being that the Doctor rescues these kids and runs around with them for 250 pages while the Daleks twirl their whatever their equivalent moustaches are in the background and go ha ha ha, oh, we'll put you there. And it's that there is no plot to this whatsoever. I don't think things just happen time after time after time, and the story just ends. It just finishes off when Nick Briggs has hit his word count, which I admire in an author. Economic. I've earned my money. There you go. Have fun.
Well, I think I completely see what you're saying, and but I think it, as you say, it probably works for a more casual fan because it's a very simple prose style.
Yes.
harking back to sort of the Terence Dicks approach. I'm not saying Dicks would have written a book exactly like this, but at least in terms of the sort of the characters are simple enough sort of stereotypes that you get exactly who they are. The Daleks, as you say, they're not as present as you would think, but I don't think that matters because every time you pick up the book, you see that Dalek on the front. It's a very easy read. It nails the character of the the base level 11th Doctor, I think. And every chapter you're in a different sort of location, you're moving around. So it manages to capture the feel of what I think a more casual fan thinks Doctor Who is. What it isn't is Interference Book 1 and 2 or Alien Bodies. But
God, no.
I do think this is sort of Doctor Who prose boiled down to its most basic level and given enough exciting twists and turns. And everybody talks about the twists here in those reviews. That it's an enjoyable read for people who probably only read a couple of Doctor Who books or maybe their first one, perhaps.
Yeah, and I mean, as fans, you and me, we're at the committed end of Doctor Who fandom in every sense of the word committed, right?
Should be committed.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're gonna dig a little deeper, but this is it's entirely surface level stuff. It's when you start thinking about it, it's kind of starts falling apart. So you get, the parents of these kids, they just jump out of an airlock and abandon them.
Yeah.
And you go, that's shit parenting for a start. Oh, there's Daleks in the area. We don't care. We'll just bugger off and leave you in there.
I assumed we were going to find out that the Doctor had actually been back to rescue them, and it was all sort of like some sort of loop, or that it was actually the Daleks that shot them out of the airlock, or
or there was some kind of plan with that.
Yeah,
that it was going to be but there's no twist. No, we're doing spoilers, aren't we? Because it's been out for a decade. You get to the end, they remember the happiest times of their life when they've got hold of this godlike alien device, and their parents come back
and they de-age.
Really that happy? Yeah.
I mean, Amy Pond remembers the happiest time of her life, or her happiest best friend at the end of her first season, and he comes back, doesn't he? All it's got to do is be remembered. At least this time round, there's an alien device doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't mind that kind of thing, but then it's also you got there. I think is it 400 sunlight worlds, or is it that
something like that? Yeah,
some of that. And the Daleks' plan is to turn these into 1 billion Scaros. Now I don't know about you. I'm easy on Doctor Who physics. I'm going. You've got that 400 worlds, and you're going to turn them into 1 billion worlds. I don't think physics works quite like that.
No, I get that. But is it any more mad than Davros's plan in Journey's End?
What plan in Journey's
End? Yeah, sure.
Come on. I don't mind that. But this is where I kind of thought my redemptive reading of this would be, is Nick Briggs, does he secretly hate that kind of whole Moffat era, being a Chibnall stan like yourself? And is he just actively taking the piss out the Moffat era here?
Is that your reading?
That's my reading of it. You've got all the kind of cliches. You've got the kids in there. You've got the big device. You've got the Daleks doing Machiavellian things in the background, and it's there's plans there, and the Doctor runs around, plays with his bow tie a lot, and I'm going. I don't know if it's a satire. I don't know if it's just this really kind of bad attempt to actually try to write like Stephen Moffat.
I wonder whether it's a case of Nick Briggs is a classic series fan. I'm not saying he doesn't like the new series, but he is at his best when he is writing for old Doctors in a more traditional format, which we may or may not see later in this podcast.
Spoilers.
Well, yes, quite. So I think this is him trying to do Stephen Moffat's Doctor Who and not fully getting it. I think he's trying his best. One of the questions that has plagued me for many years is why Nicholas Briggs never wrote for the New Adventures or the Missing Adventures or the BBC books, because he just seems like a sort of right fit there. But actually, I think it would be the Missing Adventures or the Past Doctor Adventures.
Oh, every time. Because I always think Nick Briggs' ideal of Doctor Who is when he was sitting down and watching Planet of the Daleks back in 1973.
Yeah.
That's his formative experience. That's what and that's what the kind of thing he's been trying to recreate for, 40 odd years now.
Yeah, I agreed. Let's dive a little bit more into we talked about how the story perhaps doesn't hold together. It's a series of events that happen and they end, and there's some quite fun set pieces within there. But what about the prose style? How do you feel about that?
Well, I have been discussing this with my friend, and colleague Joe, and I wouldn't quite go so far as Joe would say Nick Briggs can't write English, but it is at the kind of very, very basic level of a book. It's maybe I would have thought it's a quick reads level. I don't know how many of those you read, but
None.
None. There you go. It's a simplified level they asked for those. It was for adults with reading difficulties or lower reading ages.
Yeah, I assume this was aimed at kids, especially in the anniversary year.
They are. I think they kind of. I don't want to say dumbed it down. That'd be going too far. But there's some quite sophisticated books in the run up to this in the earlier Smithy. And then it's maybe we need a Dalek book. Who do again? We get Nick Briggs in, and it's kind of, and I can see because it is kind of exciting, and I like that basic idea he's got there. I love the kind of idea of the Daleks are these benevolent rulers of this empire. I know it's been reused in Big Finish since. The Dalek occupation of winter off the top of my head for one. And that's a really good idea. But the plan's that it's hang on, you wasted how many centuries doing this for not much gain?
Yeah, it's an odd way to spend their time as the Daleks. But then I always feel like the Moffat era never really knows what it wants to do with the Daleks. And Moffat goes out of his way to write Dalek stories where he's not really writing Dalek stories.
Oh, God, yeah. I mean, something like Magician Apprentice is nothing like a Dalek story. It's about, damn right, it's about essentially that question of if you could go back in time, would you kill Hitler? So it wants to do entirely different things. Maybe because, I don't know if Daleks are one of the things that Moffat's a little too reverent about. He can't find a way to kind of engage with them. Because Chibnall at times can be more interesting with what he does with the Daleks than Moffat can.
I think Chibnall had the right idea of going, they can't be our big bad.
Yes.
So they're going to be our special every year. And I have a 3-part sort of, not story, but a sort of loose trilogy that I'm going to do with the Daleks, to do something different with them. I think Russell, in his first run, does the best things you can do with the Daleks, but maybe not so much Daleks in Manhattan, which has its positives, but, it's not part of sort of that lineage of Dalek there through to Parting of the Ways, through to Journey's End, which is really sort of the return.
Big impact, aren't they?
Yeah, the return.
Big special.
Yeah, they're the big thing that destroyed the Time Lords. They're back. They're even more back. They're going to destroy the whole of reality itself, and here's their creator. So it's kind of, they've had their beginning, middle, and end, and then you have to think of interesting things to do. Moffat likes to sideline them. I really like Asylum of the Daleks, but it's more about Osgood's journey and that than the Daleks. It could be called Asylum of the Cybermen or Asylum of the Pating or anything like that. It's the same. Yeah. It's the same thing.
Quite easily, because all you do is put in a cyber virus. Boom, there you go. That's exactly the same story for you. You don't get those. I do like that icon of the plunger break, the ice stock breaking through the head.
I hate that. I hate that, and it's in this book as well. And the Sable's hand, the gun out of the hand.
Yeah,
I hate that stuff.
You can have autons in that, can't you? It's easy. It's duplicates.
Although I've just realised, calling it Asylum of the Pating, it would be interesting to see Clara trapped in a Pating, but it could be the Cybermen and or other sort of convert
who's
creatures.
To say that, when she's going back through Doctor's timeline, she hasn't turned into Pating at one point?
Well, exactly. She probably did.
God, yeah, you can imagine Jenna Coleman eating everything, can't you? At the buffet for that one.
So the pro style, simplistic, not to everybody's taste.
No,
Certainly, if you're a fan of the new adventures and EDAs, this is not going to appeal to you.
no, this is the issue. You know, it's like going back when the Eight Doctors came out, and you've gone from the Dying Days, you've gone from Lung Barrow. It's like, yes, love it, pros everywhere, and then this is written for they've taken this audience back 10 years. They don't know who's buying these books.
Yeah.
And again, if I suppose on a big occasion, I don't mind them putting Dalek books out like that. I don't mind them thinking like this because that you can hook people like this. Just give them something light, something fun, something quick moving. Again, it would remind me of Doctor on television because maybe you're not necessarily watching Doctor Who that closely. You're just looking at it, you're seeing it. It gets from A to B, fast, fun, few good lines, happy days, job done, and that's what this book does.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of Lego Doctor Who almost.
Yeah,
you put the bricks in.
Absolutely. I haven't read many of the new series novels.
Casual.
I know, filthy casual.
Terrible.
So I don't feel like I know I've read Sting of the Zygon, and I've read The Many Hands for this very podcast, and I've listened to a couple of audio versions of others, and there may be others I've read that I've just forgotten, but I don't see a marked sort of increase or decrease in quality between the couple I've just mentioned there. Like they're all much of a muchness, and I find the thing you have with when you're doing the new adventures or the Eighth Doctor adventures, you can sort of do whatever you want with this character, whereas this has always got to be canon adjacent. You do anything too big, it's either going to be you're going to get a red line through it, or it's going to be sort of rejected by the TV series itself in 2 episodes' time. So you can only tell a sort of quite stripped back basic version of Doctor Who for my money. Now, you've obviously mentioned some titles earlier that you think are really good, so I'd be very interested to read those at a later date. But for me, that's why these books never interested me, because they're for the filthy casuals.
Yeah, they're secondary. Purely probably because the way the BBC Charter works, or did work, I don't know if it still does, of you can't have them being vital to TV. You can't have to buy these books to understand. Although I believe one of the early ones did actually have Rose's first journey to an alien planet, and did get, I think, at least half referenced in Boomtown off the top of my head.
Oh, really?
Yeah, was it Woman Wept or something like that? If I remember.
Yeah.
The Slitheen one, early doors.
But I think that's okay because Russell decided he wasn't going to show that on television.
Yes.
And also, realistically, you're showing time has passed, certainly between Boomtown and what preceded it. Was it the Doctor Dances that was before that?
Yes.
So you kind of, they want to show time has passed. And it would be really weird if when they came to New Earth, that was her first alien planet and she just missed all the others.
Yes. Oh, wow. Hello, Doctor. What are we doing here? I've never been to an alien world before. I thought you loved me.
Yeah.
You show me all the best places. All those grotty space stations.
Yeah. And we've been back to see my dad loads.
And he's dead again, for fuck's sake. Why do you keep doing that?
Now, Stephen Moffat loves putting kids in his version of Doctor Who, much to the annoyance of Joe Ford, who's angry about it every time. And this is no exception. Obviously, I doubt the memo came down from Stephen Moffat. But again, if this is Nick Briggs trying to do Stephen Moffat, maybe as a tribute, as a piss take, whatever, he's gone.
Literal piss take at times.
Well, yes, indeed. Tell me about these piss-riddled children.
Well, there's these 3 kids here. Jenebeth, what's his first? Ollis. Go to the page.
There's Jenebeth.
Ollis is one.
Sable.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they're 3 kids of these genius scientists who, as we've said, have just jumped out of an airlock because they don't want the Dalek to have the secret that they've got. Mm. And they're kind of quite... They're almost like one unit rather than any kind of individual character. So it's quite kind of bland. and this is one thing I kept feeling, it's that Nick Briggs has been writing for audio for however long. A lot of this stuff, actors could pick up the, whatever's lacking in characterization on there. They can inject something into it. But these three kids, and they're really bloody generic kids. Although, I was most impressed by Arliss going, yeah, okay, we're about to plunge to death in a skimmer. We're going to fall into the air, die. The doctor can't do it. Oh yeah, as a 4-year-old, my dad used to let me drive my car. I don't know if you've ever met a 4-year-old. I wouldn't let them drive my bloody car.
Yeah, very true.
How's he reaching the pedals, for God's sake?
Things are different in the sunlight colonies, mate.
Oh, that's it. Oh, they're advanced, aren't they?
So do you find these kids annoying? Because I don't. I don't think they're particularly interesting characters, but they're quite sort of basic ciphers for the plot. But
yeah, they're too bland to be annoying. Arliss may be I find annoying because he's suddenly a genius when the plot needs him to be. I don't know if you, and again, 4-year-olds, they're not the most interesting people in the world. They can be fun, don't get me wrong, but they're not going to have any kind of developed character. And, he doesn't, although the one thing I will say is, Jennifer, he does really bloody nasty things to. So I thought Joe would at least be happy on that one.
Yeah, well, quite. I mean, Jennifer becomes a Dalek agent and, gets the old gun out of the hand and all that.
Yeah, after being held in prison for 90 years.
Yeah.
It's like, that is really bloody nasty. I quite like that.
Because the Daleks are bastards. And the other two kids have to go and live their lives sort of depressed knowing they lost their sister, they lost their parents, and it's just them sort of, they stop trusting their pal, the mysterious stranger, the Doctor.
What a bastard he is! He is, isn't he? Though again, he leaves them all the time. It's like, oh yeah, the Daleks got you. See ya. I'm off.
He does. So how do you think the character of the Doctor is handled here?
I think Nick Briggs, and this is just a general thing with his writing, he has trouble writing the Doctor as a character because the Doctor is obviously. The trouble with writing Doctor, he's this super guy who can pretty much solve your plot at any time. But the Doctor never solves plot in Nick Briggs' work, I don't think. It's all...
Same as Russell T Davies.
Exactly. It happens by accident. So, yet, see, New Series Tribute, he's playing with all the tropes here, Nick Briggs. He knows what he's doing. Smart. He redeemed himself in my eyes, I tell you. So, yeah, on the surface, I think he's got sort of kind of little mannerisms. He's got that kind of rushed delivery that Smith often goes to. You can imagine Smith saying a lot of these lines, but he never really affects the plot. It's going, how would it be that much different? He did, instead of taking the TARDIS back to the planet, he goes, no, I'll just fly this spaceship I found you on right back to the planet as well. So why? What? Just because the plot needs you to be there.
So I think he gets the base level sort of quirky mannerisms of Matt Smith at this point, right?
Absolutely.
Which, if you are a casual fan reading this, is all you really need. I think it also does something very interesting with the character, something that I think is quite prescient and only happens in the last third of the book, in that the Doctor becomes the not a conspiracy theorist that nobody believes. And usually the Doctor shows up at an adventure at the start and nobody believes him for 5 minutes. But to have him in the final third being that voice kind of depowers and devalues the character. And I think that's a great idea that could possibly be explored a little bit more elsewhere. But I was like, that's a really strong concept for a Doctor Who story, I think.
Yeah, again, I think there's a minor problem where he treats the entire populations of his planet as these kind of huge masses without a kind of individual personality. But that scene's really nice because, you're conditioned to expect that scene where the Doctor gets himself on the telly and goes, no, it's all a lie. Your life is a lie. And that's the big hero moment.
Yeah.
And instead they go, if they get the remote control out and go, what's on the other side?
Yeah, and
that's
people
great.
people start to boo him. Like he gets them for a second, and then a Dalek shows up and defeats him, not by shooting him, but by sort of going, well, "What proof have you got of this? We're the Daleks. We've looked after these people for thousands of years."
Yeah, we realised, which is why I was the thing that's really one bit out of character. I don't say just show, oh, the Dalek's been evil. Is that bit at the start where they go, oh yeah, there's been this big train crash, and we're just going to shoot the drivers who caused it for the hell of it. There's no logic, no reason for it, but it's just there to show that the Daleks are up to something.
Yeah,
but
I assumed it would be covering something up, and we'd get back to it later.
Yeah, and no, it's just that nothing happens about it. But the Daleks being nice is just a much more interesting story. If they just keep that going, how do you fight against those 400 years or whatever of conditioning?
Yeah,
you can't almost, because it's part of the fabric of that society.
You mentioned the lack of Daleks and sort of the Daleks being these benevolent rulers. Is there anything more you want to say on the use of the Daleks? Because we do get, they exterminate the rebels and things like that.
The selling the big finish product that goes on in the book. I love the adverts at the time. Yes, it's the Dalek litigator.
Yeah.
That's quite a terrible name for a Dalek, isn't it? I know there's a parliament of Daleks, but are you the most boring Dalek around? When all the other Daleks can go off, have a laugh, exterminate who the hell they want, you were sat at home reading whatever galactic law books.
Doing the paperwork.
Yeah, doing the paperwork. Come on. I suppose someone has to do the admin, don't they?
Yeah. I mean, look, it's not Power of the Daleks, but then neither is Victory of the Daleks. So
exactly.
I think that story's only properly successfully been done once. Maybe Blood of the Daleks. There's a bit of it in there as well.
Yeah, the Dalek Invasion of Winter, I think, is... I don't know if you've heard that one. David Barnes' one. That's a really nice one.
Yeah, I tell a lie. It's been done well, loads. Just not here. What I like, actually, is that it does sort of background the Daleks, although their presence is felt throughout. Like, I think that's quite an interesting thing to do for your big Dalek book, because Briggs knows he can't do anything massive with the Daleks because they're going to do that on TV.
Yeah, you just want the aperitif, so to speak. You're serving it's your hors d'oeuvre before the main course.
Indeed.
So I think that's how you almost have to write the Daleks if they're being honest. It's where they're good in Victory of the Daleks is when there's as the Ironsides just there around the background being helpful. You don't know what they're up to. That fundamentally makes the Daleks a lot more interesting than if they've just got the big plot to collect 7 or 8 planets together and blow up the entirety of reality. But if they're there, they're lurking, it makes Daleks more sinister, and it's much better. But again, you get the time controller. I haven't listened to enough of Nick Briggs' Big Finish to remember.
He shows up everywhere, that guy.
Yeah, and I love that halfway through. Oh yeah, the time controller, and the Doctor says, "Yeah, we met you, but I can't tell you about it yet." Come on.
One interesting thing this book does, and I know that the New Adventures weren't allowed to do it, but I'm gathering other books were, is a lot of it is told sort of from the Doctor's point of view, and that we get insights into the Doctor's mind and the Doctor's thinking. So, there was things about his sadness and like with the kids and how he's just freestyling and making things up and all that. Do we think that works successfully here? And are there other examples of it working successfully, if not here?
I do actually like. I think that's the actual strongest bit of the book, where they actually managed to get because fundamentally Moffat's Doctor, I know it's said, he destroys his enemies by telling them who he is, and they all bugger off because they're terrified. He's a bullshitter.
Yeah,
the Matt Smith Doctor is a Tory bullshitter, essentially. Look how he dresses. Look how he. That's him. And that kind of does capture. That's how the Doctor works best, I think. He doesn't work as, again, that kind of lonely god type, because where can you engage with the story? Where's the flaws? Where's anything going on? I know it's almost contrary, but the Doctor's almost human there.
Yeah.
And he's a character you can relate to. So I will happily give Nick Briggs that. Matt Smith is really good on that front. As a kind of in the Doctor's head, I know it's James Goss does something really, really interesting in Dead of Winter, where he's playing with the perspectives. I'm not going to say anything because in case someone hasn't read it, but you get inside the heads of the characters there, and you're led to think one thing, and you should be going another, and it is so well pulled off.
Okay.
But James Goss is frankly one of the best writers out there for the series in whatever form you care to say. I mean, he can make Torchwood good, so he's a miracle worker, frankly.
It was Miracle Day when he got that range.
Absolutely. Hey,
I'm here all week. Is there anything else you want to say on this particular book? Any other notes? Anything you think we've missed?
Let's have a look. Well, there's. I don't know. I think my frustration with it was because there's a good idea in there wasted. Just that first idea of that benevolent empire. But yeah, it's just you can tell it's someone's first book. I think in a way that you often can't. I don't know if Justin Richards is still editing at this point or whether it's just how it's gone. Because most of Justin Richards' books are so well structured. Everything under his era, because his background at IBM is, he writes the manuals, so A to B, you can follow the story. He made Johnny Morris do a flowchart for Festival of Death, so just to make sure it was all good. And that was the one thing I was going, it's unusual in the Doctor Who's, because you don't get many bad books under Justin Richards. You get dull books, which are kind of all bad books, but the story's all there, the plot's all there, everything moves. And then this is the first one I think I've held for, it's coming up 20 or 10 years plus since Justin took over. And it just didn't hang together. And the ending, it's just that ending, for God's sake, where it's just, I've run out of words. As I said, I don't mind doing that because, a film workout delivered, happy days, and Nick Briggs is off you go. But it's okay. I've read this. We're up to the end. Why did the Doctor have to go to the funeral in the first place at the start? You don't really pick that up except as a kind of half idea. It's kind of half reference towards the end. But yeah, it's just it's that paper thing kind of Doctor Who, which you, me, Joe will just go really, and that, but it does the job it needs to. I think at the time it was written, it's like Interference did the job at the time it was written that it needed to. It's a hell of a book. Alien Bodies, Revelation, they all do that job. This is a different Doctor Who, but from a different time with different circumstances. It has to be secondary to the TV show. So, so I'm comparing it to, Interference, Revelation. I'm putting them in that category.
But if I was comparing it to something, I'd compare it to what was on television at the time, which, as I said, was Rings of Akaten, Cold War, Hyde, Journey to the Centre of the TARDIS. Those are all quite Doctor Who by numbers, I think.
It's Doctor Who in a kind of a neutral gear, isn't it?
Yeah. And I feel like that's what this is. I don't find it inoffensively bad. I would never want to reread it. I've had my fill of it. And for me, it's interesting to jump into Doctor Who at this time and see what this version of Doctor Who looked like. And actually, the truth is quite a lot like the neutral gear stuff that we were getting on television.
Yeah, and quite in tune with the actual spirit and tone of the era at the time as well. Not just the stories, but from what Moffat was or wasn't doing. But it's written from someone who gets the idea of the show, who's clearly seen the episodes, but they haven't quite got the bones of it underneath.
Yeah, I think you're right. It does need someone like Justin Richards to go, what is this story? What is the beat? How do all these set pieces tie together? Like, what is the purpose of this? It can't just be an action movie with a few sort of tears from here and there.
Yeah, because there's good ideas in there. There's some of the set pieces are exciting. I don't mind the kind of idea of the Doctor's trapped on one side of the TARDIS and he can't get to the doors. How does he get out of it? That's quite a kind of. But I don't know if it warrants the amount of time it takes up in the book.
Very true. Should we rate it then? Is it a clanger? Is it a banger? Or is it an average meander?
Or is it a clanger?
It's a clanger for you.
It's kind of a clanger, but it's because of who I am. It's because of the audience I am for the book. It wasn't meant for me.
I mean, I agree with you, but I'm going average meander. I think that somebody who likes the Matt Smith era, who isn't well versed in Big Finish and well versed in EDAs and things like that, will pick that up and go, "Yep, that was a bit of Doctor Who. Had
Yeah,
a decent time."
Too hot for TV.
So the next thing we're going to cover is a third Doctor adventure. The third Doctor Adventures #9, in fact, The Annihilators, written by Nicholas Briggs, directed by Nicholas Briggs, produced by Heather Challens, with music by Nicholas Briggs. It was recorded on the 6th, 8th, 21st, 22nd, and 23rd of September 2021 at the Soundhouse and Audio Sorcery Studios. It was released on the 8th of February 2022. News at the time: extras for the Season 22 collection were announced. There were more brand new Target books in the works, and Colin Baker was announced as playing an alternative War Doctor in a Big Finish box set.
great times.
Then, from Big Finish, we had The Slender-Fingered Cats of Bubastis, a Bernice audiobook, The Lone Centurion Volume 2, Old Friends featuring the Ninth Doctor and the Brigadier, and the Torchwood story Sunny. From BBC Audio, we had the Space Travel Collection and Doctor Who and the Revenge of the Cybermen. The comic strip was Hydra's Gate featuring the 13th Doctor, Yaz and Dan. Actually, quite a reserved amount of Doctor Who merch comparatively at that point.
Well, the kind of the thing about it, Chibney, there's much less out there, isn't there? Particularly relating to the current series. They don't seem to like having any kind of spin-off really, because there's only what, 3 books, I think, for that whole era.
Yeah, I think you're right. The focus just never seems to be on anything to do with the main show, like any tie-ins to the main show. Big Finish can do what they want, and the collection can do what they want. I guess that BBC books are more focusing on Target books at that point.
Yeah, it gives them room to do kind of interesting things, doesn't it, with the books? Because I think there's less of an eye than there was, under Moffat, under Russell T. That it's kind of a little room to sneak interesting little projects through on the side. You've got the Wintertime Paradox. That kind of little short stories by Dave Rudden that comes out somewhere around here. It might be 22, but they start doing something that isn't quite just 3 books, 1 batch. That's it. Every few months, they're trying to expand what they can do, and I think it's been a really interesting time, particularly what they've achieved with the Targets in recent years as well. Rob Sheeman came back, Mark Gatiss was able to expand his. It was quite fun. And there's the obvious stuff, like the Giggle in particular in recent years is a real brilliant novelisation.
The Day of the Doctor as well.
Oh,
But I wonder whether that's... We were just saying how you can't really do anything that messes with the format of the show too much with a tie-in novel at that point. Yeah. But perhaps, and I'm sure this is subconscious, but people are going, what new things could we do? And actually, you can almost do something more new and exciting with an established bit of Doctor Who, like a tie-in novelisation, where you can reinvent the wheel, as was done with the Giggle, as was done with Day of the Doctor, and you can embellish and sort of go, actually, we can do weirdly more new things with something that already exists than just Cybermen in Beijing or something like that.
Yeah, you find there's so many interesting different ways they find to do things with the story, because the stories in the modern era, they move faster. They don't necessarily translate to that big novelisation. You got 45 minutes of TV rather than 90 to put into a story. And they all find interesting to raise. Russell basically chucks he chucks everything at Rose. He puts it into a big budget TV show. Moffat just breaks down the Day of the Doctor completely and turns it into something literary. You can tell he's this kind of guy who's absolutely neurotic about what he does. Rob Sheeman, but he fills in the background of all those characters. The actual story of Dalek you see on screen itself is much less than half the book. Mark Gates puts a massive prologue on there. your mate Joy, she does a really fun job on the Witchfinders. Rona Munro on the Eaters of Light. Arguably, it's a much better story in prose than it is on telly,
Yeah.
which you wouldn't necessarily expect.
Too hot for TV.
The Doctor, Liz and Brigadier investigate some mysterious deaths at Lugate docks. The bodies are decomposing strangely, there are shifts in time and gravity, and the local police are acting odd. When the second Doctor and Jamie show up, the two Doctors discover there are two alien races on Earth, the Helt and the Grestinor. The humans align with the Helt, who are trying to stop the Grestinor from destroying the Earth. However, it is actually the Helt who are revealed to be the ones trying to destroy the Earth, and the Grestinor trying to stop them. The Helt are defeated, and events wiped from everyone's mind.
Too hot for TV.
I think we're probably entering into the phase of Big Finish that people most mock, I think it would be fair to say. I think over the sort of couple of years before that and through to now, it's very much the Big Finish dartboard fruit machine, you name it, of Jackie Tyler versus the Dominators, that sort of thing, which...
Would watch.
Well, exactly. So we end up here, which is a third Doctor story, set within the realms of season 7 and within the realms of season 6B. So, have you heard this before?
I hadn't. I think this was just because of budget. So I thought, no, it's a nice idea to try and catch up and see if it's what everyone's talking about, because this had a good reputation. Like you came to it because this is the kind of thing that's much more, I think, in Nick Briggs's wheelhouse.
Yeah.
So I thought, yeah, I'll have a look. I knew it was the Doctor story. Oh, hang on, I'll lose that on the cover as well. Oh, it's a second Doctor story as well. Yeah, fair enough. It's Big Finish, whatever. I mean, you don't. I think Big Finish. There's an issue with that kind of the multi-Doctor story. They just met each other popping down the shops.
Yeah.
And Owen's got a Daleks turned up. So that...
well, they actually kept the involvement of the second Doctor a secret. He wasn't on the original cover. Later down the line, I think that they revealed it to most people.
Yeah, it was a fake cover, which I kind of missed that experience, because I'd have loved that if he... Hang on. What's his turn? But the thing is, again, because you're dealing with recast, no matter that they're related to the original actors, maybe it wouldn't have that impact. And I don't think we'd heard... it's Michael Troughton doing this one, isn't
yes.
it? Yeah. I don't think he'd been heard at this point, had he? Because it's the Beyond the War game set.
Yeah, so this is very much sort of a launch point for his Doctor, I think, to go, do people like this? Do they accept it? And almost like a weird little pilot going for the season 6B stuff, the Beyond the War game stuff that they do afterwards. So this is his debut. I mean, I guess let's jump right into Michael Troughton. Does it work?
I kind of think it does. It's not a particularly convincing sounder, like, if you like. There's elements there of the voice, obviously the relation of it, but he's not just doing an impersonation. It's a Big Finish. There is that kind of tendency to give people who can impersonate the characters the recast, but they're not really trained actors. So you just they don't bring that much to it. And I think Michael Troughton, he does bring something to it. He does have that kind of playfulness to the performance. I think he captures the essence there. I
think that when he sounds most like him is sort of, and the only way I can define it is, it's that moment in the invasion where the Doctor's being shot and sort of going like that. It's like
jumping up and down with side blast up the arse, so to speak.
Exactly. And I feel like he hits the sort of oh my words and oh my giddy aunts with that sort of energy. And then actually the more sort of conversational stuff, he sounds less like the second less like his dad, but still evocative of the character. As you say, it's a performance rather than an impersonation.
Yeah, it's I thought when he's tied up basically and he's taking the piss out of his captors, that's quite nicely done. I quite like, because again, I think that's the essence of that Doctor, where he would just take the piss out of his captors all the way through. Yeah,
I agree. And he's very much second fiddle, I think, in the story. Like, it's a third Doctor story in which the second Doctor appears.
He just happens to get involved, doesn't he?
Yeah. And I quite like that. I'm actually a little bit. I'm not saying Big Finish necessarily smash it with their multi-Doctor stories, but part of me would much rather just have the Doctors bump into each other. I'm mainly talking about television here.
Yeah.
Than to have these big sort of universe-shattering events where the whole timeline's in jeopardy, because the whole timeline's always in jeopardy in every season finale. So why don't they all fucking show up then? Like,
Exactly.
I'd much rather just there's a glitch in time and we both happen to be here.
Yeah, it's like a multi-Doctor story. You're supposed to have everything turned up to 11 all the time.
Yeah.
And, some like two Doctors where they essentially just bump into each other, that does work on television. It works much better than, we've got to contrive a big universal threat, or we've got to get all the Doctors to Gallifrey. It's a nice kind of quiet one which turns things down. It's actually quite nice. And I don't mind, if David Tennant wants to meet up with, his father-in-law and just have a whale of a time working on it. Yeah. Chuck Georgia in as well if you want.
Yeah, I think when I was a kid, I thought the idea of multi-Doctor stories was the most exciting thing in the world.
Oh, God, yeah.
And then you get older and you're just like, well, it's two of the same character. And then you get something like Light at the End, where it's basically 5 plus a few cameos of the same character. And you've got to find something for them all to do that's different. It's why the 5 Doctors keeps them apart for most of it. I know he said it was the egos, but also you don't need all of them in the same room at the same time, because it's the 5 people. They've all got the same brain. It's the 5 same characters.
Which does kind of make it interesting right there where they do meet, and it's a bloke talking stuff, and he doesn't particularly like himself. Get that Pertwee and Troughton thing. If the actors can work the material, it's great.
Yeah.
But if the material isn't there, ouch. But it is that thing, because it blows your mind when you're 5 years old, isn't it? It's the most exciting thing. Oh, I haven't seen a story with him, or I'll get to see him again. Come back.
Yeah, I mean, I know I'm not the only fan whose first experience of the first Doctor is Richard Hurdnall.
Oh God!
And there are even more fans now whose first experience is David Bradley. So
and they got their jolly good smack bottom out of it. But I know Zagreus gets a pasting, but it does find something kind of interesting to do, because they don't just play those roles.
The issue for me with Zagreus isn't what they do with the characters or necessarily the plot. It's just that it's too fucking long,
Yes, fundamentally, yes, it needs an edit.
If each of those, it should be the sort of Sirens of Time length, where instead of a disc for each of them, they get an episode, and it'd be a really tight little story. But when you've got the Doctor shouting at himself in the TARDIS for an hour, and then an hour of Colin Baker being this, and fucking an hour of Uncle Winky played by Sylvester McCoy. 20 minutes of Uncle Winky I'm there for, but I don't need a disc of it.
It's one idea, and it's over. Again, I think mentioned Sirens Time. It might not be a good story, but the structure of that is really, really good.
Yeah. You don't have time to get bored, because it's 25 minutes of each of them,
4 episodes, one concentrated Doctor, and then that they all meet up at the end. Perfect. Again, it's like the 5 Doctors did. You only have them meet up in that last episode.
Yeah.
And have a bit of fun.
So
don't give me 3 hours of it.
Yeah. The second Doctor works as a supporting character within the story.
Yes, very much so.
We've talked about his recast, but ultimately there's only one original cast member in this, which is Fraser Hines. So I'd like to talk about the other recasts. So let's go through them. We've got Tim Treloar playing the third Doctor.
He's the one I'm never quite convinced by. I don't think he's that vocally close to Pertwee.
But again, I think he's an actor who is. I mean, Pertwee's got a very unique voice,
Oh God, yes. It's a very old school English, isn't it? Very actorly from the techniques they had back in the day on the stage.
When people talk about, they should get Sean Pertwee to play his dad. Not only does he not want to, but I mean, Sean Pertwee is an actor and a very good actor, but he doesn't sound anything like his dad. I'd be interested to know that if he were to do it, whether he could actually capture the voice in the way that I think Tim Treloar captures the essence of the voice without it actually being, an imitation.
And the other thing about Pertwee, and we know it when he was coming, he is. I don't want to belittle his acting abilities, but you wouldn't give him big dramatic scenes. He comes in from a performer, a stage performer rather than acting background. He's that, was it the man of a million voices or whatever they used to call him?
He's got two.
Yes, two, and one burbly, one down there. Each one covers 500,000 roles. So beat that versatility. Come on. He's kind of the guy you could maybe get away with having an impersonator do, because he's not that big an actor. He's kind of this locus around which his stories revolve, but he isn't an emotional kind of heart to it. He's not trying to be.
He has softer moments, but yeah, you're right.
Moments of charm.
Yeah, I think that's fair. So Tim Trelaw really works for me. I was not sold on the idea of recasting the old Doctors, weirdly. I've always been fine with it on television, but in audio, and I don't mind you recasting others, but Tim Trelaw was the guy that sold it to me ultimately, that it could be done well.
He's fine, and I think what's helped here is that this does feel like a Pertwee story.
Yeah.
So he has that kind. Whereas you bring him into another Doctor's era, it's a little hard to accept him, but it's fine because the way I know obviously the Jon Pertwee was visual. It just has gets the sound right. It has the atmosphere right. It kind of gets the pace right. It gets everything pretty much spot on that. And that does make easy accepting. So I'm not quite sold on him. Yeah. I think it's a decent acting performance, but his is the one kind of voice that drags him. But I don't mind that kind of, that he's not that vocally close.
I think that's what I want from the impersonators, though, in terms of the tone of the story. I think that's what I really like about these Third Doctor adventures, is they all feel like they could be on television in 1970, 1971, 72, 73. Like, with the actors who are still alive, like, I like hearing Colin Baker in a different sort of Doctor Who that he's never done before, because it's Colin Baker. If I've got Tim Trelaw playing the Third Doctor in an adaptation of Damaged Goods or something like that, then all of a sudden I'm going, well, this isn't Doctor Who, you know? If you haven't got the cast, you've got to evoke the tone of the era and get the story right.
Yeah, and I think this, if we can remember, is where Nick Briggs really shines with this kind of things, because he knows that this is his wheelhouse. He's happy with that tone. He's happy to do, to write that era. He knows it from his childhood, so he's still got that kind of a sense of wonder about it, almost.
Yeah, and I think he gets the era.
Yeah,
I think he gets the style of story. He's perfectly suited to it, and it's so evocative of the era that it's even a couple of episodes too long. It's like it just works so well on that. But like, I'm not going to say this is a groundbreaking script from Briggs, but it is very meat and potatoes 70s Doctor Who, and he just captures that era so wonderfully, I think.
It's what you want from what Big Finish has become to a large degree. It's that, it's again, as I say, it's beans on toast on your lap at your nan's in front of the telly. It's practically comes free with the CD. I understand. As a recipe, at least.
And I can absolutely understand why people who have perhaps fallen off the TV show in more recent years, who grew up with the Third Doctor, Fourth Doctor, etc., return to Big Finish time and time again for things like this, because this is the Doctor Who they know and love.
When I was in my 20s, I would have gone, no, I don't want to hear a Jon Pertwee song. I don't want to hear it. It's all been done. I was very much on the rad side of things in the 90s.
Yeah. But,
as I get older, so I don't see any problem in there being this kind of comfort market for people.
Yeah.
It's, you look at the window, you read the news, you open, or you don't open Twitter anymore. And you
have Blue Sky.
Yeah, everyone to Blue Sky. Come on. You open that and you go, well, the world's a terrible place. What's wrong with a bit of escapism for a few hours? It doesn't all have to be groundbreaking. There has to be this market. And really, the other thing I'll say, if you want a rad book, you need something to react against, or or audio. And this would kind of give you something to react against. But it's that kind of, let's say, Meat and Potatoes Doctor Who done so well.
In terms of his plot and story, it's very much, it's sort of the Galaxy 4 thing. It's like, well, we
Yeah.
don't trust these guys because they're bad, but we've been told they're bad by this other race who want to destroy them, and it's got a sort of ecological message to it about these
The,
people that want to cull humanity to prevent them
yes.
polluting the galactic environment, which is what they do in the future. Which I think is a fun, very Barry Letts idea.
Yeah, absolutely. It's absolutely a Barry. That's it's essentially the Green Death as well, isn't it? Inferno does this from this
Yeah.
season as well. It's look after the planet message. Perfect. I do like that. It is a nice motivation for a villain. Which we talk about Darks, they don't really have a motivation properly. Oh
Mm.
yeah, we're going to turn this planet into a bin scars, whatever. That's just kind of an excuse to do a story. But this one there's some. I know not a great deal of depth, but there's a little more depth to it, a little more to engage with.
Yeah. Agreed. And Briggs directs it and gets the tone right. He does the music, and he even does the ambassador's twang of death thing.
I love that.
Yeah,
I was just like, I was like, okay, there's a theme coming back. It's like, oh, what's going on? Oh, he's doing that. Thank you very much. Authentic to the type. Beautiful.
it would only be better if it also was actually called Doctor Who and the Annihilators.
Absolutely. Come, what were you playing at, Nick?
Apparently, Briggs was resistant to do it as a seven-parter, but he was talked into it by somebody else in the company. Just sort of,
Sue Cowley, apparently.
yeah.
I won't say anything bad about Sue. She's a good friend, so I.
Well, there you go.
But she's right. If you're going to play into this, go for the absolute kind of authenticity of it. Go for that style.
Because there is a four-part of this story that works just as well. In fact, probably slightly better. But because I'm so engrossed in the feeling of this story, I just sort of go, do you know what? I am going to let it slide, as I let it slide with Ambassadors of Death, which I love dearly, but could do with a trim here and there.
Absolutely. I mean, my friend Paul, he listens to his Big Finish while doing the dishes because it was kind of ambient noise almost at times. You don't necessarily pay attention. And this is perfect for that.
Completely agree. I mean, I listened to it. I didn't listen to it in one go. I listened to it like an episode a day, and that is
Same.
the perfect way to listen to something like this. It's a cliche to say classic Doctor Who wasn't meant to be watched all in one go, but also if Big Finish is basing their stories on classic Doctor Who, then quite possibly neither is Big Finish meant to be listened to all in one go.
Yeah, I mean, what's the human attention span? It's a very rare person who can go 2.5, 3 hours. This I think with the extra on top as well. You can't listen to that in one go. You're not going to concentrate on it because audio dramas I do drift after about 20, 25 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. So it's always good when you get the fucking howl of the Doctor Who theme going, you can turn this off for a bit now, come back tomorrow.
Love you can understand how it was in the 70s and the 80s for us kids.
Yeah. And you've got your beans on toast, as you say, sitting on your nan's knee.
Oh,
We didn't talk about the other two recasts here, which is Liz Shaw and the Brigadier. Now, John Coleshaw, I think, does a mean Brigadier, but as we were saying earlier, I think it falls more in line with an impersonation than a performance.
yeah, and it's not that Brigadier of that season 7, so it's not that strictly period accurate. I think it's more that
Yeah.
Brigadier of the later years where it's a military cliche.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the Brigadier light as Brigadier's buffoon. He gets hypnotized really easily by whatever her name is again. I can't remember.
DCI Dennis Walker.
That's the one. And I mean, it's a really nice idea, but you think the Brigadier should be kind of harder to hypnotize. It should be,
Especially season 7 Brigadier.
yeah, absolutely. You just look at her and go, "What are you doing? What are you trying?" Yeah, boom.
I think the impersonation works for me because the Brigadier is very much a support character in this. I don't think you could do anything that was a bit you couldn't do a really sort of introspective Brigadier with the Coleshaw impression.
No.
But as somebody to blow up tunnels and bark orders and go, "Oh, really, Doctor?" I think the impression works.
Yeah, he's essentially a fun plot function, isn't he?
Yeah, exactly. What about Daisy Ashford as Liz Shaw stepping into her mother's boots?
See, again, it's what you said with Sean Point. I'm always kind of resistant to the idea that because they share DNA that they're going to be good.
Mm,
But I think this is my favorite recast of the lot.
I
I
agree.
think she really nails it. She's got that kind of sarcasm that Liz had, and she's got the laugh down perfectly. That kind of sarcasm.
Yeah,
You would, it's that Liz. She is this. You wouldn't necessarily approach her because she is this competent, brilliant scientist.
she's an actor as well, more than anything else. So
Yeah,
she's giving her own. She's recapturing the spirit, but she's giving a performance, and you can absolutely do a story where delving into Liz's life, and Daisy Ashford would be able to pull it off.
I think she does. I'd love to hear her do a companion chronicle or some such. That would be ideal for me. Obviously, now her mother's not around,
Yeah,
but yeah, you could genuinely. There's so much room to do stuff. There are. I can't remember if it was a companion chronicle. It is the companion chronicles. They do a kind of afterlife is for Liz, isn't it? I think.
yes, they do. Yeah,
Yeah, I think you could continue that on from there. You could almost have Liz do her own Torchwood type stuff almost.
what like Probe?
Probe, exactly. Probe, come on. Probe the sequel. Brig finish. Bring it on. I'm sure Bill Baggs would do it for a fight. You've sent him a fiver.
Bill Baggs and BBV collaboration. It's what the world's been waiting for. Yeah, I've completely lost my track. Oh, yeah, I was just saying. There's one other. It's not a recast. It's not a character we recognise, but there's a really slimy, evil, sort of slightly camp man in it who's only a support role, but he sounds just like Peter Miles.
Oh my, yeah. I was like, hang on. I think did you kind of stockpile this as you've done with so much other? Is this was it recorded 5 years ago when he was still alive? Because it's Mark Elstob, isn't it? The guy they got to play the prisoner.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic performance on that because obviously Peter Miles is in the Silurians, and it's just a perfect sound alike.
Yeah. He plays 4 roles in it,
Yeah.
and so he's got to make him different. And as you say, sound alike.
It's absolutely uncanny. It's the best. It's the best sound alike of the lot. You wouldn't know different. Oh man, I thought neither was there in front of me.
I know. It's very easy when doing sort of period accurate stuff to send things up, I think, and do it in a very knowing way. But that's sort of a knowing performance of people will enjoy this, but he's not sending up the Peter Miles School of Acting.
Again, it's that performance as a plot element, as this kind of familiar thing, isn't it? It's another kind of plank in. This is Doctor Who as you used to like it.
Mm.
Again, that plot function, almost the ideal of it is Peter Miles. He does it in Invasion of Dinosaurs. He does a version of it in Genesis, and it's almost like a default performance.
Yeah,
but an interesting default performance rather than just someone turning up and going, "Yeah, I'll just do Peter Miles impersonation for the next 3 hours."
absolutely. What do we think of our 2 alien races here? We've got the Helts and we've got the Grestinor.
I was just looking up because I'm going, am I going to be able to pronounce Gresnot? I don't mind the help because I don't necessarily visualize things in my head that much when I'm listening to stuff. It's just you're almost, we're just working off performances. The Gresnot, I had the problem with the voice because it's extreme for a sort of big finish. It's again though, it felt like a 70s Doctor Who monster voice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine this being this bubbling stream of towels, like the thing from Skin of Evil from Star Trek Next Generation.
Yeah.
This black, oily, horrible creature. Really nicely done. The Helts, they're kind of generic, aren't they, I think?
Yeah. Very just sort of serious, sort of, we're pretending to be the goodies.
Yeah, it's I don't know, I'd have them also something like maybe the Morocks where they've just got weird eyebrows or something. That's how I was picturing it, mate.
How do we feel about the interplay between the 2 Doctors and indeed their interplay with the characters they know, so the Brigadier and Jamie? Because we've not really mentioned Jamie because he's played by actual Fraser Hines.
Who apparently, I think the rumour was he turned up and didn't know that, the second Doctor had been recast again.
Oh, wow. Didn't read the script then.
Apparently. Obviously, I think the model when you're doing the second, third Doctor is that kind of rapport that Troughton and Pertwee developed on stage and off stage. They're convention act almost.
Yeah.
And they don't quite go there with that, I don't think. I don't know that they've quite got the bravery to. The second and third Doctors, they would have right proper goes at each other under that kind of humour.
But they don't spend that much time together in this, do
No.
they? And I guess you can argue that, the second Doctor says he jumped in because he saw the Doctor was in a spot of trouble and wanted to help him out. And this is a second Doctor whose life has been prolonged, and it's a third Doctor at the beginning of their life. So maybe they just haven't quite got to that point that they do when they get to the three Doctors or the five Doctors.
Yeah, but again, it's like we said, they don't meet till quite late in the story. So it does, again, I think that works because you've got that kind of tension of, when are they going to meet? Because that's what you're waiting for in these stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not entirely sure the second Doctor needs to be there.
He doesn't need to be there at all. I think it was a fairly late decision because they thought, they didn't want to wait another year for Beyond the War Games to come out.
Yeah.
To actually show this Doctor, so it's maybe added at a late stage. Maybe it's like Inferno bulks it out with that parallel universe storyline. We'll bulk this out with a bit of the second Doctor.
Yeah, and I think if you remove the second Doctor, there's no way you could have made this a 7-part story.
No, God, no. There's no fun there. It's fun having Jamie meet the Brigadier because of the points at which they are in their lives, I think.
Yeah.
So Jamie kind of really does know him.
But to have an older Jamie meet the Brigadier as well,
yes,
and indeed meet the third Doctor as well, it's a nice sort of flip on the usual thing of the people who've been travelling in time look the same and the people on Earth look older.
Absolutely, but the one thing having terminal fan brain, I was going, so what does this mean for the three Doctors that the Brigadier's met the second Doctor here? Because he'd be familiar with the idea then. He wouldn't just be this raging arse he turns into with the three Doctors.
That's exactly what I was thinking, but fortunately they hit a big reset button at the end, don't they?
Yes. It's fine. Big red reset button. Nick Briggs has clearly learned from Russell and Stephen and Chris.
Exactly. Sometimes you just got to tell the story and then reset the whole thing so as not to upset the established canon, apparently.
2.5 to 3 hours. As long as you've had fun, it's fine.
Yeah.
That's what I was. I did like that idea, the kind of those little weird time jumps going on.
Yeah.
Where they don't quite know what's got. That kind of moves the story along in a nice and interesting way.
Yeah.
The Doctor knows something's wrong. Gives it that little unsettling atmosphere all the way through.
But without it being too timey-wimey, it's not a new series idea. It's how the classic series was and does handle things like that.
Yeah, it's just a side effect. It's not anything that's vital or the universe will be destroyed if the Doctor doesn't solve this kind of thing.
Because the new series temptation way of doing things would be, well, we're going to have two separate stories featuring, one disc is the third Doctor and one disc is the second Doctor, and then there's another disc where they meet, and then there's all sort of timey-wimey stuff, and this scene is the second Doctor and the third, and and there's a version of that story that works, but there's also a version of that story that's like Ravagers, the first Ninth Doctor box set, that is just incoherent mess. So telling it in this linear fashion with just little nods to sort of time displacement, I think, is a really smart idea.
Yeah, particularly as well, because I don't think Nick Briggs necessarily functions well in kind of experimental narratives. Maybe Creatures of Beauty he got away with, I think, on that one, because that's again one of his better ones. But since it's the linear story, I don't mind writers pushing themselves, and they should push themselves. But Nick Briggs, after 40 years, we know his wheelhouse is the straightforward Doctor Who stories, and he won't get much praise for that because there's no praise in just going, oh, he's doing that again, he's doing that again. But it's stuff that keeps the wheel turning. It's an underrated skill, I think, to be able to write a Doctor Who story that kind of captures that era, that gives people what they want. They're just, okay, 2 hours, I've had a good time, I'm out of here. Not everything needs to be Day of the Doctor,
Exactly. And did you have a good time?
Yeah, I had a good time. As good a time as I had when I met Nick Briggs and he gave me a bottle of wine.
Ah, why did he give you a bottle of wine?
It was a leftover from one of Rob Sheeman's book launches.
Ah, well, lucky you.
Oh, it was good. And it was a decent bottle as well, I have to say. So,
See,
no flies on Nick.
That Nick Briggs is a lovely
Yeah,
man.
yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
is there anything else you want to say on the Annihilators?
Um, I don't think so because it's kind of difficult to say stuff about these standard stories, isn't it?
Hmm.
It's you know it's good. It's Ron Seale Doctor Who. It does what it says on the tin. It's exactly what you want from it. So, and it's if it's something done badly, you can say it. If it's done well, then you just go, no, it's hitting everything it wants to do. It fulfills itself, and that's actually what's really impressive about it, I think.
Agreed. So we must rate it. Is it a clanger, a banger, or an average meander?
Oh, I think I'd give it a banger. I had a good time in the Pertwee era, and I didn't used to have many of those.
Yeah, I would give it a banger too. I love this range with Tim Trelaw, and I think Nick Briggs captures it perfectly, as do a lot of the other writers. So, bravo, Nicholas Briggs.
Absolutely. More encore.
So we've done two very different Nicholas Briggs stories, I would say. Have we learned anything about the type of writer Nick Briggs is? What we like about him, what we don't like about him?
What I think it comes back to something you saying stuff. What he's really good at is just that 70s Doctor Who, specifically that 70s kind of you know where he is when you've read, even if you've heard just his individual stuff, where he loves that John Pertwee, Tom Baker, and just capture. He works best within these kind of defined parameters. The new series, what's the new series? 2005. So yeah, the 21st century version. It doesn't quite work. I don't think the affection is quite there. He may like it, he may not like it. I have no idea on his views. He absolutely does. He can't quite nail that feel as well, but he has a good feel for Doctor. He's best, I think, after all the practice he had at writing for audio, at the skills for it, leaving room for actors to do their work, to have a bit of fun with it, to actually play some character.
Mm.
He doesn't have any. I don't think he doesn't have many great lines. He's not flashy. He's not. There's no Moffat banter in there with him.
No.
He's more a Chibnall on that front. I think.
Yeah, I think that's
there is
fair.
exhibition,
Mm.
but that's fine. That it works for what he wants to do.
I think these two are very good examples of what works and what doesn't. But I mentioned it earlier, but Ravagers is an example of him trying to play in that new series toy box and not quite getting it right,
Yeah. It's that same thing with the first War Doctor box set that he does.
Yeah. But then he writes for the Pertwee Doctor and, gets it right. And he's written some pretty solid scripts for other Doctors. I'm thinking of things like the first Dark Eyes and stuff like that, which is very much, it's not exactly old school Doctor Who, but it's his version of sort of old Doctor Who does a bit more modern, but he's not trying to be like any new era.
It's almost like the 90s version of how the 70s would have developed. I think if you haven't got that, McCoy, you're in the way, maybe. And it's maybe the universe he has in his head that he was creating with audio visuals.
Yeah. It's almost the Blake Seven Doctor Who, Doctor Who becomes more tonally similar to Blake Seven in the 80s rather than taking a different
Oh God,
turn.
yeah. And something like To the Death as well is very much in that Blake Seven vibe.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, there we go. Well, I think we've nailed Nick Briggs there.
Too hot for TV.
So look, John, thanks for joining me today. This hour and a half has flown by.
Absolutely.
If people want to find you, where can they find you on the internet? Are you on Twitter? Are you on Blue Sky? Do you do podcasts?
I'm on. Do I do podcast? I do the occasional one. I might be one of what they call a pod tart. Mainly on Strangers in Space with the Fabulous JR. And is there some Brummy guy on there as well? Don't know if you heard of him.
Rillandees.
That's the guy. The War Dylan, that's what we call him, isn't it? Yeah, and lots of quite lovely people, and Matt, obviously, which we just turn up and insult each other. I tend to do the Hamster Book Club as well lately, where we talk about books like Interference. God, we do In Wonderland, but the forthcoming Ghosts of End Space
Excellent.
for Our Sins. Cannot wait, I'm telling you. And yes, I'm on Blue Sky, just Jon Arnold, one name, and I've still got my Twitter account, but I don't really go on it except to be a tart and promote myself to the bots and the right wingers who are still on there. So I'm at the _Arn on Twitter, but Jon Arnold, Blue Sky on Blue Sky. So
excellent.
Yes, find me there.
Fantastic. Well,
next time, I'll be joined by Liam, and we'll be talking about the 13th Doctor story, sort of, the festive Yule Log, which was apparently a BBC America webcast. But until then,
I've been Dylan.
And I've been John.
And this has been Doctor Who, Too Hot for TV.
Too hot for TV.
I just want to say fuck you, Joe Ford.
That's the only reason we picked this book, isn't it,
Yeah.
really?
Well, no, I picked it and I said I was doing it, and he said it's the worst Doctor Who book ever. And I went, well, I'm actually quite enjoying it. I don't rate it highly, but it wasn't offending me in the way that it clearly was, Joe.
All I can say is that Joe Ford has picked the Ghosts of End Space for us next, and he has read it and enjoyed it.
Wow.
Look, he has no room to comment here.
Yeah, exactly. I would put the Ghost of End Space book and this in sort of, they're closer, I guess, bedfellows than perhaps anybody would like to think.
I would say so. Although there's fewer catamites in this book.
Yeah, very true. But that's because the BBC were keeping a watchful eye these days.
Yes. You'd think a former BBC producer would know better. No. What can I get away with? Now I'm off the leash, baby.
Oh, Barry Letts is a horny fucker in the 90s. Especially his Blake 7 audios have some questionable things in them as well.
Oh, good God, yes.